Well, of course, there are many ways of looking at this problem. So I told you earlier that Indian market has some very special requirements. One of the key requirement is see we have of course a market in the urban part of the country, and you have also a huge market in the rural part of the country. The way things are happening and the way it is natural, there is this huge migration taking place, essentially because of livelihood opportunities and so on and so forth, which is, I think, natural in the sense, I don't think you can stop it. But Indian cities, for example, city of Mumbai, you must have read a news item some weeks back. City of Mumbai is growing the fastest in the world. Why do we have to have that distinction? While we understand this dynamics, but can we afford to do that? So in that sense, can there be not products which are produced out of Indian brains, but which tap a huge market which is there in rural India? And mind you, these have to be necessarily low-cost, high-tech products. You know, low-cost, low-tech products are plenty, we know. I'm talking about low-cost, high-tech products, and with the power of ICT, with the power of embedded systems and all, this is actually possible. So according to me, if we focus on low-cost, high-tech products, which are of vital need to people who are on the wrong side of the divide, either the wealth divide, rich-poor divide, in which case there is market even in urban areas, or the divide which is kind of well connected and poorly connected, you know, rural areas which are remote, not easily accessible. If you create such products, first of all, I think there is a huge untapped market, and I think it can give tremendous both challenge and opportunity for young people, and Indian young people can do it. Just to give you an example, in fact, there is it must be there already in ad. The proposal is, they invited proposal, low-cost product for detecting anemia. You know, anemia means normally you have to take blood sample, send it to laboratory, find out how much iron, and so on and so forth. The idea is, can you not have a small instrument which is connected to your mobile, and you put it on your finger, just like the oxygen, dissolved oxygen you measure, and on the mobile you get a reading, and then get a piece of advice what to do next, consult a doctor or do this. So this, I think, is entirely possible, and some of these products are doable even by our engineering college students at the undergraduate level. But I think we need to drive this like that. So like that, there are, I think, many opportunities.
Sir, just to satisfy our curiosity, I would like to ask, why is it that India is looking for nuclear fuel from abroad, and we are compromising so many things just to get it? Little more insight.
Well, good question. Well, first of all, we are not compromising anything. I'll explain. There is absolutely no compromise, but I must explain why. See, the issue is the following. You imagine India in 2050, or you imagine, first of all, there is this relationship between the per capita energy consumption and quality of life or human development index, which actually improves very steeply with increase in energy availability. The human development it rises very steeply up to a point, and then with a knee it plateaus out, because beyond that extra energy doesn't help. That knee of that curve is at around 5,000 kilowatt hour per capita, which is roughly 7 times the current energy use in the country. So first proposition which I have is that we Indians should aspire to achieve the same human development index. I'm also not talking about amenities and this posh access to resources, but human development index we should aspire to be comparable to the best in the world. And I think it's a legitimate aspiration. If you want to do that, you need to have access to roughly 10 times the electricity that you produce today. At that level of electricity, and I'm talking about only electricity, I'm not talking about other forms of energy use. To produce electricity at that level, you will find all our energy resources except thorium and solar, everything else will appear very small. We say our coal will last 100 years, true, but at current rate of consumption. That 100 years will become 10 years if the consumption goes up 10 times, which is necessary to reach that human development index. So the short point is to support reasonable quality of life of Indians. Eventually, we need energy sources which are large and available within the country. Now, why within the country? Because today, in fact, I mentioned this yesterday in that lecture. Today, we are importing 30% of our energy, all energy put together. If you read the Planning Commission document on integrated energy policy, by 2032, not even 2050, much earlier, we would be importing 60% of our energy. And people have done calculations in terms of the payout, because you have to pay for that energy. So our payout for oil would increase at around 18% compound annual growth rate. And the payout in numbers is estimated to reach 200,000 billion rupees. So we are worried about current account deficit today, what will happen at that point of time. And that's why it's important that we must look for energy sources from within the country. And as I told you, there are only two commodities, thorium and solar energy. And we need both, because just one for various reasons is not acceptable. Now, thorium by itself doesn't produce, you cannot start producing energy with thorium. You need to start with uranium, grow capacity in fast reactors, and then start using thorium. Now, if you do an actual calculation, program-based calculation, then you would find that to meet the electricity generation needs, either the nuclear program, the 3-stage uranium, fast reactors, thorium, it will grow at some pace depending on the deployment of uranium reactors, because that's where it's all exponential, and everything is determined by that initial term, which is very small in India because our uranium resources are extremely small. So the idea was that in addition to the uranium that we have in the country, if we import additional uranium and then do whatever we are planning to do with 3-stage program, you do with imported uranium. two things happen. One, the growth of the nuclear program would be faster because you are starting with a larger initial term. But more importantly, unlike other energy fuel, coal you burn, it becomes ash, that's the end of it. Oil you burn, you produce carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and that's the end of that fuel. Nuclear fuel, you burn in the reactor, produce electricity, but you produce additional fuel. And in fast reactors, in fact, you produce more additional fuel than what you consume. So which in turn means that if you import a little bit of uranium today, and in fact the plan when this was made, the plan was to import uranium for setting up a capacity of 40,000 megawatts for a period of 30 years or 40 years, that kind of uranium. If you import that, then you'll find that you can put the country's energy supply on fast track, but more importantly, eliminate the need for import of fuel or energy for all time to come, because you are able to breed more fuel through that means. Of course, this means several things to be carried through. Just by importing uranium, it's not going to. You have to build uranium reactors, you have to grow fast reactor technology, you have to build thorium reactors. But you can make country energy independent. And that's where that import came in. Yeah.
Hello. So we have passed almost 60 plus years after independence, and we are now land of ideas, but land of having not opportunities. So is there any look back into the system of governance in which we are working, that most of the technocrats in the system presently we are working in state or central needs to be reported to the secretariat or ministry apex authority with decision making. They are not technically convergent with that field are the decision makers. So please throw light on this.
Well, governance is a sad story and it will require another lecture. I share that view that governance is important, equally important, but I think good governance and innovative or innovation society are kind of two things which have to be there together. It's not one in place of other. The lack of governance can't compensate for innovation, and lack of innovation can't compensate for governance. They both have. So I have not touched governance, but certainly you need good governance, no issue.
Sir, it is said that today our economy is based on consumption of more by few.
Consumption of?
More by few. What is your opinion on this? And if yes, will the growth of economy is sustainable in the country? And if not, what shall be the ideal equation?
Well, I'll give you an indirect answer. And the indirect answer is, I think our economy, the way it is growing, it's growing, but creating disparity. In fact, the disparity also is growing. And so the question is, when you have growth in economy, it's also important to figure out where that wealth is being added. Now, as Muhammad Yunus had said, you add that wealth at the base of the pyramid, it sort of percolates upwards relatively faster. You add that wealth at the top of the pyramid, it also percolates, but not fast enough. And so disparity grows. Now, can you do away with wealth addition at the top of the pyramid? The answer is no. Because there are many segments of economic activities which require much larger capital, which cannot be managed at the base of the pyramid. There are large infrastructure projects, large power projects. You can't expect even a large collective of people at the base of the pyramid to be able to do that. It's the proportion of how much of wealth you get added at the top of the pyramid and how much of wealth you get added at the base of the pyramid. That decides whether the growth of economy will be healthy or it will create problems. And I think at this moment things are not exactly right.
We can take a last question.
Sir, as we know that energy is very important to all of us, and most of the countries are shutting down their plants of atomic energy. And instead of atomic energy, they are shifting themselves into renewable energy. Then in India, why it is not happening?
Well, I think your question is based on either wrong information or misconception. Well, first of all, India, renewable energy is growing faster than most other countries. So we have actually taken a strong recourse to renewable energy. Your statement that most of the countries are going away from nuclear or atomic energy is actually wrong. Except Germany, in fact, there is, in US for several decades there was no new plant build-up, but they are talking about a couple of new reactors. In UK, they are actually constructing some reactors. In traditional places where nuclear is growing, China, Russia, it is continuing to grow. Even Japan, where Fukushima took place and they shut down all reactors for reviewing, they have not said no to nuclear. They are reviewing it. 2 reactors are back on stream, and progressively more reactors will come. And what proportion nuclear will be in their energy mix, that they have to determine. But they have not said no to nuclear. This is very important. Germany has said no to nuclear, but that is because of the Green Party politics. And coalition politics many times drives things in an I would say irrational direction. We have seen that in our own country. So Germany, of course, is right. But to say that most of the countries are going away from nuclear is actually not right. So as far as India is concerned, we of course have been cautious. The nuclear program implementation has in fact slowed down, but it's going forward. A lot of reviews have taken place. New projects will come in. Renewable is also getting a huge importance in the country, and both of them have to grow. In fact, as I told you, if you see long run, and every country should look at its own requirements. This is very important. If you see in the long run, India does not have energy resources to meet its requirements at that scale, except taking recourse to thorium and solar. And that's what the directions are.
He is asking.
I think this should be the last one.
Yes, sir. So my question is that every time we hear of nuclear war, there is a small problem. We are threatened that there will be a nuclear war, either from our Western, Western power or from the northern power. Sir. Every day we are testing missiles which are capable of carrying nuclear warheads. So, what is the possibility of a nuclear war taking place in near future? is it possible for any country to get into this kind of war in our scenarios?
Well, I think the possibility of eliminating nuclear war will arise if you eliminate nuclear weapons. So if you get into a total internationally universal nuclear disarmament, then obviously there will be no nuclear war. And that's our national policy. India's national policy right from day one has been we are strong champions of total nuclear disarmament. But we have to live in this realistic world. As long as that does not happen, do we live under the threat of weapons on part of others and not have our own? Or we have our own weapons which deters others from using their nuclear weapons? Now, in that, of course, there is a small outside probability of a nuclear war. But then, that is where the art of making deterrence work prevails. See, nuclear weapons are weapons of deterrence. Weapons of deterrence are to prevent adversary from becoming over-ambitious against you. And if you are able to do that, and if you are able to make the deterrence effective, you are actually avoiding a war. And that's why many times weapons of deterrence are also called weapons of peace. You know, you must have heard this term. Not very easy to grasp, but the key is to make deterrence work. And I think that's a part of statecraft. Okay.
I request Mr. Ashish Garde to propose vote of thanks.
I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Kakodkar for sparing his valuable time and addressing us on this interesting topic. It was such a pleasure to have Dr. Kakodkar with us, such a great man, but yet such a simple person. It was just one phone call and that he accepted our invitation. Thank you, sir. I thank all the persons who are here who honored our invitation and participated in this program. While coming over here, our president, past president, and our vice president, three dynamic persons who I admire the most, they asked me to say, propose vote of thanks. I am not a person who can talk. I can describe actions. So I said I will describe some actions which CMI Innovation Cell is likely to conduct in the near future. We have already tied up with National Innovation Foundation, NIF, Gyan, and Srishti. We would be having many activities in the near future. The Gandhian Technology Innovation Award, the applications have been invited. I appeal all the students to visit techpedia.in so that they can apply before the last date, which is actually the 30th of Jan, but on our special case, they would be accepting the applications till 15th of February. I have already mentioned that CMI would be having some innovation clubs at various colleges. Detailed information is already shared today with all the colleges on email, and we would get into action very soon. We would be having innovation project contest next year. And while coming over here, the dynamic Director General of MIT, we were discussing what next after this talk, and he was ready with an answer. MIT has got around 8,500 students on the campus. I am privileged that he has given me the honor of making a good announcement for MIT students on behalf of MIT. MIT has created a corpus of 50 lakh rupees for supporting innovative projects of MIT students. These project and other details, like they can contact Dr. Prashant Ambad, sir, who would be giving more details on how these funds can be utilized for these innovative projects. CMI has already set a target of raising 1 crore rupees for supporting innovative projects, especially from students from Marathwada region, and I am sure in the year to come there would be a lot of innovation movement in Marathwada. Thank you.